Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to do a board game spotlight for EOS Island of Angels. This game is by Felix Murtica. It's a 2023 release that was published by King Raccoon Games and Gray Fox Games. And Gray Fox Games kindly provided this review copy for me. I have the deluxe version, so I'm going to be showing you a little bit about what comes in this version, talk a bit about gameplay, and then give you a few thoughts about what my reflections are after having played it several times. Before I dig into the gameplay and the components, let me talk briefly about what you can find here on BoardGamegeek's website. You can see its average rating is 7.7, ranked overall 5016, but it's a 2023 release, so that I think will rise as more people have a chance to play it. The weight is 3.32 out of 5. It says from 2 to 5 players here, but there is a solo mode, which I'll be talking about in the review. You can see it says 90 to 120 minutes of playing time, and I think that's pretty reasonable. I was able to play it well under 90 minutes as a solo. It was about 90 minutes for 2 players, and I think it probably took us a little over 2 hours when we played a 4-player game, but that was with 2 players who'd never played it before. There's really beautiful art and components that you'll be able to see. I'll show you my actual copy here in a minute, but we'll look at a few pictures while I give you some background. So the story of EOS is there's this island that's been shrouded in fog because of the influence of demons. And these demons are putting curses on the people, covering the island, and they've turned all the angels into stone. But there was a sailor named Kareem who came along and was able to unfreeze or return one of those angels from stone to life. And that angel then helped them defeat demons and gave him immortality. And so then Kareem now is trying to recruit other sailors to brave these dangerous waters and to try to accomplish epic deeds and defeat demons using the help of angels that they free from their stone encampment, and then hopefully become the most renowned sailor. And there's all of these different ships and captains that you would be using in the game. So this game is one that has worker placement, but you're using worker placement on your own player board. It also has an open drafting mechanism where you'll be choosing different upgrades to your ship and to your characters. You also have asymmetric roles for every captain and ship, and that gives each one variable player powers. So that's a little bit of an overview, as we can see here from Board Game Geek. Now let me show it to you on the table. All right, so first let me just give you a quick overview of all that comes in at least the deluxe version of this game, and most of this also comes in the retail version. I'll try to explain the differences as I understand them, although I've never actually had the retail version in hand. There is as it can be expected, a rule book. I felt like the rule book was pretty well written. It's a little bit unusual in the order that they teach things, and there are a few little specific details that you kind of have to read for, and they might be a little bit hard to find based on the descriptions and the way they're organized, but the wording of the rules and the explanation of the rules with examples was very clear. You just kind of have to read through all of it to get a good understanding of the gameplay. So that's the rule book. I'll set that off to the side. They have terrific player aids, and they look almost like you would expect from a Vital Lacerda game, where not only do they give you a turn order overview and then how you do the actions specifically, but then on the inside, they give you information about every specific angel and demon that can be found in the game. And then they also give you a nice on the back list of all the icons and what those icons mean. So the player aid is terrific. The players that I've taught the game to, and it has been quite a few, really appreciated the quality of that player aid. Now, what are the components? Well, let me start with this over the side, and I can move some of these out of the way, and then I'll zoom in a little bit before I explain the gameplay. So there are, in the deluxe version with the Kickstarter expansion, let's see here, there's 7 different nations that you can battle with, each one having, in the deluxe version, a dual layer recessed player board. And so this is one Quanon, and then Mespan, Noom, Gloin, Lavaloan, and the Guild. And I have been able to either play or play a game with someone else playing all 7 of the factions. I'm going to be demonstrating Kusan, which is here on the side. Now, each of those different factions comes with its own ship, and the ship is represented by a card, and you can see by the symbol up here in the top which one it matches. So this symbol matches Kusan, which I'll be playing with, so I'm going to put that right there for now. But then technically, while each different faction has its own ship and each ship has its own setup information, you can actually play with a combination of using one ship with a different faction. That's one of the kind of advanced rules of play. And there is one that actually has 2 tokens, or 2 cards actually, one for the ship and one for the Kraken. I did play that one myself, and I'll talk a little bit about that during the gameplay. It's an interesting one where not only do you have your ship, but you have the Kraken tail that's moving around the board, which gives you extra movement and extra action. So kind of an interesting technique there for that one. So all of them different variable player powers with an asymmetric board. All right, some other things that I'll show you here, kind of just working our way across the table. These are going to help us understand where to set up the demons on the game as they arise, and so I'll show you that a little bit with setup in a minute. This is the regular retail version, and then the deluxe Kickstarter version of showing you where you're going to have the next demon arising from. These are the demon cards, and so we saw a picture of one of those on BoardGameGeek, but there's just a lot of them, and depending on the game, you're going to have a certain number of them coming out. And there is in the rules a setup of if it's your first game and you want to make sure you have a really good shot at winning and defeating all the demons and understanding all the rules, they give you a list of which ones to use and even the order that you should use them in. And there are also these tiles that get placed on the board, and there's one tile for every demon card. So you'll put the tile on the board, and then the card goes beside the board to give the curse that that demon is applying to the game at that point, and then also gives the general rewards that you're going to get if you can defeat it. Now up here we see the solo mode cards, and these are interesting that you technically just use one card for solo mode. Each one has 4 tasks that you have to accomplish in order, and it tells you what's going to happen after you accomplish each task as you go. And so that's how you play solo. I have played that solo a couple times and enjoyed it. We have our epic deed cards up here, which we're going to be tiles, sorry, that we're going to be playing on the board. And then there's level 1, level 2, and level 3, depending on the difficulty you want to play with. And then there's these island ones that go right here in the middle of the board, and I'll show you that on setup. There are these different upgrade cards that you can purchase, and they all give you different advantages to your ship or to the characters on your ship. And so those will also give you points at the end of the game if you've applied them. You can see that hopefully you can see that these are worth 3 points if you apply them during the game. These are the journey cards, and there's a really thick stack here, and the journey cards that you play are going to reward you with 2 points at the end of the game if you're able to put them into play. And some of them have a cost, so to speak. Like this one, you would have to incur 7 demons, but it gives you a speed advantage of 4. This one is going to give you protection. This one's going to give you, again, paying demons, but give you a speed advantage of 3. So all different kinds of things. Some of them are purely good. Some of them are kind of a combination of being advantageous, but with some little drawback. All right, continuing around the table then, here we have cards that are going to give us our objectives, and you pick 4. You always put this one in play, which says you have to have 10 morale boosts, and the first, or actually anyone that does that's going to put one of their little player tokens, these little wooden cubes down here on there to show that you've achieved it. You can only achieve it once. As soon as you have 10, you're going to get 10 points or a blessing tile. We'll talk about those. And you're going to put 3 others in play. Some of them it's kind of first come, first serve. The first one to do it gets the points. Others, like we've seen, have those little places at the bottom, so anyone that can achieve it can put a cube there to show that they've done that, but you can only do them once. These are the different events that are going to happen throughout the game, and each time you see this kind of blue hook symbol along there, an event's going to happen, matches the symbol on the back of the card. And there's always going to be the active player reward that's going to usually give you some glory points, and then the player with the lowest amount of glory is going to pick one of these rewards, and then sometimes there's another event that's going to happen that could affect anyone or everyone in the game. So those events will come up throughout the game. These are the cards that represent the angels that we're going to be trying to free. When we free them, we're either going to choose this side where we just get points, and then we can choose to ignore a curse at the start of each of your turns, and this one tells you you can ignore one. They all kind of have that same basic advantage. But on the other side, it shows you a more specific advantage that you can choose. It gives you less victory points or glory points, but you get to take wings, which in the deluxe version are these nice little wooden angel wings, and in the retail version are cardboard standees. And so those wings will help you defeat demons. So most of the time, unless it's later in the game, most players are going to take this side. So they have the wings, which are needed to defeat a demon, and it gives sometimes a passive or an active effect. And they all are going to be something good. Some of them are actually going to give you like a worker placement position that you could choose beyond the worker placements on your individual board, and then you could take that action. Sometimes it says once per game. Sometimes you can take it over and over again. So all those angels have really good effects and award victory or glory points. And then the epic deeds, these tiles up here, also each have a card. And with those epic deeds, some of them are going to actually provide curses, but there's a big reward as well. And then some of them are going to provide another ship option. And then most of them, though, are either going to give you some sort of a passive reward. Some of them give you another place again to put a worker. And so they all have different advantages. And whoever accomplishes the epic deed is going to be able to take those. For instance, General Okini has an extra. You can use it as an action spot, and you can increase your rank or your morale with that. So those are the epic deed cards that come with that. Now, some of those provide the opportunity for shields, and these little game trays, orange ones that I have here are mine personally. They don't come with the game, but the Kickstarter version has these wooden pieces for shields, and then the cardboard pieces are there for the retail version. Along the edge of the board here, this is modular, but it doesn't really change. I guess I don't know if it's really modular, but it's a piece-by-piece thing you put next to the board. And it does change depending on player count. So with 5 players, you start here on the track, 4 players here, 3 here, 2 here. And solo, you don't really use the track that way. In fact, you don't use it at all. But when you reach the end, that's the trigger of the game. So this is the timer. And every time someone does a chronicle event, which I'll explain, they're going to put a little token on here. And anytime someone does, there's going to be an event. There's going to be a reward for the active player. Anytime you get to one of these that has a claw, a new demon's going to come out on the board. And then when you get towards the end here, you're just getting glory points. And then up here is a nice reminder that at the end of the game, any demons that you haven't been able to get rid of are going to give you a negative point, but all your morale increases give you a point. All your rank increases give you a point. Every one of these journey cards that you've completed give you 2 points, and every one of these upgrade cards you've used and applied give you 3 points. This is a reminder of some of the end-game scoring that happens. The board itself shows EOS Island, which had been enshrouded with fog, and these spots with the wings show where all the angels are going to be placed, and you're only going to have a certain number depending on the number of players that are in the game. There are some islands around the edge, which is where you would start your player. When you come on the game, your first action will always be to take an action to jump onto the board at one of these 4 islands. And then there's also these edges along the side. There's 4 spots here where you see some advantages. Here you're getting money. Here you're getting cards. This one down here is off the edge of the board, but it gives you glory points. And then over here, there's one that gives you power to defeat the demons. And whenever you come into there, you're gonna put a little token on top to show that first one's going to get 8 points, second person to come gets 7, then 6, then 5, then 4, and it's similar around with just different numbers. You're going to get a blessing token, and if it's a 2-player game, you put 2 here. If it's a 3-player game, you put 3 here. And so at each of these spots, you got blessing tokens, which are necessary to unfreeze the demons. And so that's kind of the layout of the board. You're going to be moving your ship around on the board. You're going to be attacking demons. You're going to be freeing angels. You're going to be trying to gain glory and do chronicle events in all of those cases to move this track and the timer of the game. All right, so that is the majority of the components. And then over here on the side, you see the player board, but I'll give you a more descriptive overview of how the player board looks and how it works. There is also this one die that comes up, especially on some of the boards. For instance, the one that I've chosen, Kusan, a lot of these morale upgrades let you roll the die. And the die is mostly good. Sometimes it gives you victory points, sometimes it gives you power, sometimes it gives you a rank increase, but sometimes it gives you demons. So you can always choose to roll it or not, but if you do, you've got a 2 in 6 chance of something bad happening and a 4 in 6 chance of something good happening. So that's what the die is for. All right, so let me zoom in a little bit and let's talk about the player boards, and then we'll get a little bit into the gameplay. I'm not going to give you a full rules teach, but I want to give you a feel of how it works, maybe show you a turn, just to kind of show you the basic mechanisms, how things come together. All right, so I've zoomed in a little bit here, and I've elevated the player board so you can see it hopefully a little bit better so I can give you an explanation. And each one is asymmetric, so this one is kind of one of the more basic ones, so just really briefly show you what I mean by asymmetric. So this is one for Quanon, and for Quanon, not only do you get the ship, you also get this Kraken tail, like I mentioned before, and so you're moving your ship or the Kraken tail around the board and taking the actions depending on where either one of those is. And you can see there's a whole list of extra rules for Quanon on how to do that. And then all of these morale boosts give something different. And while most of these are the same, the first officer advantage is a little bit different for each one. So this is the scout, quartermistress, or quartermaster, depending on the tile, treasurer, and warrior. Most of those four are the same, but this one's different for each. So that's one example of a unique player board, and then a couple others just to show you. So Noom has little directions here. That character is going to start actually with an angel already. And then this one, Messban, is going to actually start the game with 3 protection, and that protection's permanent, can't get lost in any way. So, and then again, this one gives them different advantages for their first officer, and these morale boosts are different. So they're all a little bit different, some of them more so than others, but that's a little bit about how that asymmetric nature comes in. So what are we seeing here on the player board? So this is the protection marker, and I would say this is probably one of the fiddliest things to work with on the game, and it's, I think, better than the retail version from what I've heard, but you just kind of move this sawtooth to the right as you're gaining protection anytime you see this symbol, and you can get it maximum 10, so and you could get it up here to the 10 spot, but it's a little tricky with the sawtooth and the numbers not quite lining up exactly right. And then also it's easy to bump it on the table, or if you don't have a table where things kind of grip to it, if it's a smooth surface, sometimes it separates and then you're not sure exactly where it was. So that's a little bit tricky to deal with, but it's easy to understand how to use. And then once you reach a certain point, so this is a tracker that slides, and if it's on the gray side, you're gaining power. So anytime you gain power, you're moving it up to show how much power you have, which is what you use to defeat demons. But let's say you had 3 power and then you had to fight a demon that was going to require 6. So you would go down 3 to 0 and then you flip it and to the demon side, and you'd go up to 3 on that demon side. It cost you more power than you had to fight those demons. And so now you got this demon aspect. Now anytime the demon marker reaches this one, so if it was here on 4, those two align, and that means you're going to lose 1 on your speed of movement. So that's going to be bad, but if you can then improve your protection, you can push that up so that you could stand to have more demons affecting you before you reach that. And then if it reaches all the way up here, then pretty soon then you can't use any protection, you can't get any morale boosts, you can't get any ranking boosts. And then if it ever reaches here to the max, then it can't go beyond that, and you're going to start losing glory points anytime it would need to move further. And at the end of the game, any that aren't protected, which means if this is down here but in the kind of wooden brown area, it's protected. But as soon as it's above, anything above that line is going to cost you glory points in the game. So that's how that protection thing works, and how you track the demon points versus the power points. And then there are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to put your workers. And so you can take the furthest to the right off and choose to go to scout to move, choose to go to quartermaster to play cards, choose to go to treasurer to get money, choose to go to the warrior to get power, or choose to go to the first officer, which is going to give you, in this case, dice rolling. But in some of them, it's going to be purifying spaces on the board, and others it's going to be another advanced way to play cards. So they all have a different feature here in the first officer. And you have 5 workers. You can always, if at least 1 worker has been placed, you can always refresh, and when you refresh, there's these little symbols on the ship card. You're going to bring them back and you get the advantage. So this one tells me I get to play a card. But most of the time you're going to end up wanting to put all your workers out in whatever order you choose. You can do 1 per turn, and then it goes around the table, and then after you've got all 5 in play, typically then you're going to do a refresh action and bring them back, and then here you could do an upgrade or a rank increase, a morale increase, get some money, play a card. Now there is another spot besides these 5, and that is this one, the Chronicle action. On these 5 you can only ever have 1 worker there, so you can't double up unless you have a card that lets you break that rule. At the Chronicle position, though, you can put as many there as you want. So one round you might do 2 or even 3 Chronicle actions, but you can only ever do any of the others 1 at a time. Now the Chronicle actions are either going to be accomplishing an epic deed, or defeating a demon, or freeing an angel from its stone imprisonment. All right, so and then over here on the shipboard, we also have the money tracker, and it uses these little rings. So for instance, this would be $34. And then if I had this, it would be $134. And if I ever go to the 200, I can just put 2 rings on it. So that would be $234. So you just track your money that way. That was another thing that's a little fiddly, but not too bad. And then on the workers, you have these morale boosts that go up. And so anytime you see the up arrow, and I think you've probably seen it on a couple of the different things that I've shown so far, that means you're going to be boosting this up. And then you just do, most of the time, a one-time action. So it's roll the dice, roll the dice, roll the dice, gain an upgrade. And that's pretty much the same for this one on every one. But for others, it's more different. So for Mess Band, for instance, you get to up your power, increase your power, gain some glory points, draw a card, gain some glory points, increase your rank, gain some glory points, gain some rank, move your ship, get some money, to add some protection, defeat some demons. So depending on the player board, you're going to have different things giving you advantages as you move up. Kusan is very much into rolling the dice and taking your chances, must be a gambler by heart. And then underneath you have these little black discs that can move and adjust the rank of each character. And so if I have this Orchidea Scout, for instance, normally for 0 cost, I can move my ship 1. But if I've increased my rank, and so anytime you see this little symbol, that means you can increase your rank. If I'd increased it 1 spot, then I could pay $15 to go an extra movement. And then if I've increased it to 30, now I could pay $30 and to go 2 extra movement, because these are cumulative. The money is not cumulative, but the actions are. And if I go to here, I could pay $30, and I would be able to extra move twice plus roll the die. And so that works the same. As you increase the rank, you get to increase, potentially, you have the choice to increase the power of your ability. And it's always not cumulative for the cost, but is cumulative for the actions. Now, anytime you take an action that is on your board, whether it's a chronicle action or one of your heroes, you also afterwards get to do a secondary action. And that's what this little cube down here is for. Because once you take a secondary action, you can't do it again. So I might choose this one to purify a spot, but then my next turn when I have a secondary action, I can't do that again this turn. I'd have to choose something else, like perhaps gaining 3 power and gaining a protection, or gaining $20 and gaining a card, or moving my ship, or playing a card, or taking a worker off of my ship, which would then allow me to refresh all 5 of them sooner and gain the rewards that are shown under the workers. So that's basically how the player board works. And then over here in the corner, we have a reminder that there is a 3-card hand size, unless, again, you've played some sort of an upgrade that gives you an improvement on your hand size. So that's kind of how the player boards work. Let's talk through a turn or so and explain a little bit more. You do have these other cards. I'll explain this, I guess, while I'm on the player boards. Every character has, since it's the Kickstarter Deluxe version that I have, then it's got a lot of different extra cards. I think it normally only comes with 4, but this one comes, this one comes with 6 because of the different extras. And you're going to choose 3 at the beginning of the game and discard the others. And so you're always going to have 3 that are specific to your character to play in the game. And when you play them again, you would turn them over to show that they're played, and you're going to have 2 glory points at the end of the game. But these are all good advantages, things that happen along the journey, good upgrades, increasing your rank, increasing your power, increasing your morale, all good things. You're going to choose 3 of those from your personal deck. You're also going to have these upgrades that are personal to you. And these upgrades are specific. So this one is specific to Jakub von Leeuwenburg, which is my quartermaster. And this one's specific to Orchidea, which is my scout. And so each one has an upgrade, and you just slide them underneath. And then that is going to be a power, an extra advantage that that character is going to have anytime you choose that worker spot to activate. And so those are specific to your character. Now, these journey cards that are specific to your character never count towards your hand limit, and these upgrades that are specific to your character never count towards your upgrade limit. Normally, you can have a hand size of 3 unless you've got another card that boosts that, but that doesn't count any of these in your hand. And normally, you can only put 3 upgrades per character, but that doesn't count these, which are unique to your character. The other journey cards you're going to be drawing during the game and playing those as well, but these are the ones that count towards your hand limit. And then you also are going to have 3 upgrades always to choose from. And they always have a cost you can pay if you want to. Once per turn, you can always do a single upgrade. And then they also have this little symbol with a hammer, meaning anytime, for instance, if I move this all the way up, the top bonus is to do an upgrade without paying the cost. So if you get one of these hammer symbols, you can do an upgrade for free. Otherwise, once per turn, you can pay to do one. And so there's always going to be 3 that you can choose from, plus the ones that are in your hand unique to each character. So that's a little bit about the cards. These little tokens are just extra ones. Normally you would use one of them on the board to track your points, but in the Kickstarter version they have these fancier pieces. And then also you're going to be covering up different things like the end of game bonuses that we talked about a little bit ago. So for instance, this one, you could put a cube on here to show that you've achieved that. And if there's a few of those out, you need a few cubes to be able to do that. And so that's why you have the cubes. And then you also, each player has their own little set of cardboard discs tokens. And those are going to be used whenever you purify the sea. You would put that over the demons to show you purified it, and you're going to get the number of glory points compared to how many demons. Then there's also places on the board that you're going to need to cover to show. So for instance, if you're the first one to go here, you put that over to show you took the $30, and the next person puts 1 to 28. You're also going to put them over here to show who did the first chronicle action and who did the second chronicle and third and fourth and fifth. So those are how those are used. And so let me take this player board away and let's talk through a couple turns, just kind of give you a feel for how the game flow works. So let me talk a little bit about gameplay and including some of the setup things that happen. So on setup, you're going to take one of these tiles, and there's a few of them to choose from. You're going to randomly pick one. These show a little picture of an island, and you're going to put that on the island, and this blocks off this middle part of the island. There is an epic deed that has to happen, and you also have to upgrade your scout to be able to do the travel through this secret passage before you're going to be able to go there. You can see it's got this little blocked off sign on either side. So you're going to take one of those and put it there. And then you're randomly going to take these little tokens and you put them in a random order. And this shows 4 is where I'm going to put my first demon. And you can either follow the suggestion in the rules to say what that should be, or you can just randomly do it if you've played the game before. So this area is area 3, area 4, area 5, and so they're all marked. So it says area 4 is where our first demon's going to go. So area 4, we put this down, and then we look for this Ragador, and we're going to put that in play. And Ragador's curse is going to be active for all of us now, which says, "What sleeps forever? Ships cannot move further than 2 ocean areas per turn, even if the movements come across from different sources." So this Ragador is going to reduce how quickly we can move around the board. And so we've placed that demon. We've placed it on 4, so then we're just going to get rid of this piece. And then this says the next demon that arises is going to arise in section 3. So we're going to put that there to remind us that's where the next demon is coming. And if we don't accomplish the epic deed that's going to be here in a minute before the demon arises, then that demon is going to replace the epic deed and no one will be able to accomplish it. And that's going to happen again whenever we get to one of these spots that have the claw sign there. Okay, so then once we put out the island and we put out the demon, then we're going to randomly take either difficulty 1, difficulty 2, difficulty 3, any kind of combination of those. And so let's just take, we got a difficulty 1, and we're just going to put them randomly in these spots around the board. We'll take a difficulty 2, put them here, and there's, I don't know if you can see it well on the camera, but we'll just kind of mix them, and they're just around the edge. And so you fill in the other 4 epic deed spots that people could try to work towards. Now, the chronicle actions are one of your options that you're going to take, and if you ever want to accomplish an epic deed, or if you ever want to defeat a demon, I guess here's the demon. If you ever want to defeat the demon, you're going to have to first get into the spot, and many of these, for instance, this demon, you're going to have to take on 7 demon points on your player board, and you're going to have to give away 3 of your cards in order to move into the spot. And then the next turn, you can take a chronicle action and defeat the demon, as long as you have angel wings, which means you would have had to awaken an angel first. To awaken an angel, which we're going to place those now, you're going to have to go into an angel spot, and then the next turn do a chronicle action to awaken them. So depending on the player count, there's a certain number of angels, and so I forget the exact correlation, but we'll put maybe 5 out there. I forget if that matches a 2-player version. I think that's about right. So you're just randomly going to pick 5, and so we just pick these top 5, for instance. All right, and then those 5 angels, we can take any of these little pieces, and we're going to look for Omaston, which is right, where is it? Over here. We're going to put that down to show that that one's in play. We're going to look for EO, which is right here. That one's in play. We're going to go to find Niasta, which is here. We're going to find Boreanos, which is here. And Hea, that's it, which is here. And we're going to represent those. And then we can set these off to the side, and until someone goes to the spot, you go to the spot the first turn, you have to do whatever's in the spot. Anytime you move, you have to do what the spot says. So if I move into this spot, I'm going to take on 5 demons, get 2 glory points. Here I'm going to take on 5 demons, but I'm going to increase a rank. So sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad as you're moving your ship around. But if you move into one of these spots with an angel, then you do what it says, and then the next turn you can take a chronicle action to free the angel from their stone imprisonment. All right, and so the epic deeds work the same way. This one shows that I have to discard 3 cards and have an ability to move double speed in order to move into this spot. Then on the next turn, take a chronicle action and defeat it. All right, so let's take a quick look at the turn flow, and then I'll give a demonstration. So it says at the beginning of the turn, you're going to look to see if there are any beginning of turn effects. Some cards will give you an advantage, or some ship upgrades will give you an advantage before you even start your turn. And then you're going to take your worker actions. You can either do a worker action, which would be using one of the heroes on your player board, or using a chronicle action to attack a demon, try to accomplish an epic deed, or to wake up an angel. And it explains how you awaken an angel, how you defeat a demon lord, and how you accomplish an epic deed very clearly down here. If you've used all your workers, or you just don't have a good turn and you want to recall them back to get the advantages, then you can do the recharge action. So it kind of lays out your whole turn right there for you. As I said, a very nice player aid. So usually the first move for everybody at the beginning of the game is going to be to do a scout action. That's required. So can't really see it very well because of the limitations of my space, but see, I'm going to go to the scout action, which is right there on the edge. And I don't have any rank increase yet, so I can only, for $0, I can move my ship. But the first play is just to put it on the board, and you have to start it either here where you get $10, here where you get 2 glory points, here where you get a card, or here where you get 3 power. So I'm going to go here where I get 3 power, and then I'm going to move this up and show that I now have 3 power. So the symbol is swords, so I know I'm gaining swords. That would be my first action, just taking one of my workers, doing the scout action, and the first time it's just putting it on the board. The next time I do a scout action, which would have to be after I recharge, because you can only ever take one of these hero actions once per round. You can only ever have 1 worker in each spot. Then I could start moving, and I could move 1 to here, for instance, and 5 demons and a rank increase, or 5 demons and 2 glory. All right, now I've taken my primary action, so now I can do a secondary action. So I look down here, and at your first turn, all of them are available to you. So I will just go ahead and take a movement action. And I'm going to actually just go right here, which means I'm going to take one of my one of my little tokens to show that I am going to draw 2 cards. And so now I'm going to draw 2 cards off of this. They're going to become part of my hand with these other cards that are unique to my character. And so now I would have all of these cards to choose from. And that gets covered. So when these are gone and they do diminish, then that is going to mean that no one else can do it. So next turn I couldn't take that action. So that's my secondary action. So that would be my full turn. Then we go around the table. Everybody does their turn, and it comes back to me. Now I pull my pawn up, and then I'm going to choose another one. And maybe, let's say I want to do some money. So I go to the treasurer. Well, at the beginning, I haven't increased my ranks. I'm just going to get $30. So I just go on here, and I've got $30. And then for my increase action down here, I could say, well, I want to play a card. So maybe I want to look through my cards and say, okay, I'm going to play this card and from my hand. And so that means I'm going to boost a morale. So I could maybe, let's say, I want to boost this morale, which means I get to roll the dice. So I roll the dice. And, oh, I got a demon. So that means I lost one of my powers because of a demon attack. But then I'm also going to be able to move my ship with an extra speed. And so now I get to move a ship because of this card. And so I could go here, and I'd have to take on 3 demons, which means I go down 2 to 0 to now 1 demon. So I flip that over. And then I'm going to get a card. So I draw another card. All right, and then this one has been completed, so I can just put it over here as that one's completed. It's going to be worth 2 points into the game. And then I can look through my cards, and I can see, well, now I still have, oh, I shouldn't have all 5 of my player cards. I need to only narrow it down to 3 before I start the game. I've got my 3 player unique cards, which don't count towards my hand limit, and now I have 3 other cards that mean I'm at my max hand limit. All right, so that would be my second turn. Everybody goes around. Now I've got another action, so I take another worker, and let's say that I go to the first officer, which I haven't upgraded yet, so I'm just going to get to roll the die. So I roll the die. Oh, another demon. That is, I'm having a bad time with the die roll. So now that decreases. And then I can take my second action. So I'm going to go here, which gives me 3 power and 1 protection. So I'm going to go from 2 demons down to 0 and then up to 1 power. And then I'm going to increase my protection 1 level. All right, and so that's taking that secondary action. And then the other people would go, and it comes back to me. And you can see that the turns can be pretty snappy. And then oh, sorry, one thing I forgot. When I went here with my boat, I was supposed to grab this blessing token. All right, and so now let's say, let's go here to quartermaster, and that's going to let me draw 2 cards and play 1. So I'm going to draw 2 cards, and I'm going to play 1. And so this is a small risk. I could roll the dice twice. This is signaling I can actually move a greater distance. This one is paying demons, but great movement. And this one's paying demons, but great movement. This one's increasing my protection. This is gain 50 bucks and gain 2 protection. This is 2 extra movement, move my speed 2 spaces, and then I can gain an upgrade. So I want to probably play one of these because now I have 5 of these and my hand limit's 3. And so I'm going to have to discard 1. But I've got 2 of these movement ones, so I'll probably discard 1 of those. So let's go ahead and just roll the dice and see if we can get a better chance. I'm going to play that one, roll the dice. Okay, so I got a rank increase. So I'm going to increase this one so I can start making more money. And then I get to roll it again. And now I got plus 10 bucks. So now I'm at 40 bucks. All right, so now I've completed that. That's in my hand, or in my collected completed ones. And then I'm going to get rid of this one because this one, yeah, it's 4 movement, but it's also 7 demons. So I'm just going to discard that. We'll put that up here in a discard pile. And now I'm down to my 3 limit, not including the 3 that are part of my unique player hand. All right. And then now I'm going to use a movement and go into this space, which has an angel on it. But I'm going to then have 5 demons, so I'm at 1 power, so it takes my 1 power and then raises me 4 demons. So now I'm there on the chart, and that's the end of my turn. I've done my primary and my secondary action, and all the other players go, comes back to me. Now I'm going to take a chronicle action. I'm in the space with an angel, and it tells me right here that to awaken an angel, I need to discard a blessing token, which I got when I came to this space earlier, and I've gained these, and I'm going to gain these wings, and I'm going to gain that angel. Okay, so I discard this blessing token. I'm going to gain these wings, and I'm going to gain that angel, which is Omaston. Now here's where I would decide. Do I want to use it on this side? So I'm reminded that I have this angel attack to defeat a demon, and that will be worth 6 points at the end of the game. It also is going to give me a once per action game of increasing my rank 6 times. Or I can just turn over to this side. I don't get the wings. I get 15 points. So I'm definitely keeping it here so I could use it to as an extra action and also have the wings to defeat a demon. And so that was my chronicle action. And now I could use a another action here. I'm going to use this one, which is purify. And when you purify, you're going to put one of your little discs over the demon spot, which is 5. And because it was 5, I'm going to get 5 glory points. And so that's a quick overview of how the turns work. You'll be moving around the board. You're going to be trying to awaken angels so that then you can go attack demons. You're going to be trying to make money. You're going to try to advance your crew. You're going to be trying to advance your ship. And everyone's doing this as sort of a race so that you can accomplish as many deeds and get as much glory by the end of the game as possible. And so because I did this chronicle action, and I know it's off the board, but let me move it down here a little bit so you can see it. I'm going to put one of my markers over that I did the first chronicle action, assuming none of the other players had done one at that point. And because I'm covering up that spot, I would look at an event card, and this says the active player gains 2 rank increases. So maybe I would decide to just keep pushing up this one. So I'm going to go 1 and roll the die. Oh, another demon. That was a bad. I'm really struggling with those. And then go a second one and roll the die. Oh man, I've gotten bad rolls today. So another demon. And then it says the player with the least glory, if you're going to look at the track and see who's in last place, they're going to either get 2 power, 10 bucks, draw a card, or increase a morale boost. And so there's no special action on this one, so then that one just gets discarded. All right, so that's kind of a flow. It's not everything that's going to happen during the game, but it's quite a few of the things. When you defeat a demon, it's pretty similar in the sense of just like this angel, you'd have to move into the spot first, take a chronicle action next in order to defeat the demon. To move into the spot, you have to do what's at the top corner, and then at the bottom, you have to have the angel wings to defeat it. So you have to see an angel first, like I did. My next task would probably be to try to move here and see if I could defeat this demon. But I can't even move into this spot till I have $100. So I would need to come here a few times and try to raise as much money as I could. So right now I'm at 30 plus 10, so I could get 40 more, and then maybe for my secondary action I could get 20 more, so that's 60, and then I am going to get to 100, and then I could move into that space and be able to then use a chronicle action to defeat that demon, which is going to let me roll the dice 4 times, which with the way I've been rolling it today would be terrible. 2 morale boosts and then 10 glory points, and then that demon goes off the board. And this would be one of the first demons we'd want to defeat, because if a bunch of us do chronicle actions, once this one gets covered, a new demon comes out, and it's coming out where this claw is. And so hopefully someone would be able to defeat this demon and take that off the board. Or sorry, not defeat this demon, but to accomplish this epic deed, to take this off the board before a demon spawns in that area. Otherwise, we would never be able to accomplish that epic deed. And so, yeah, that's the flow of the game and some of the things that are going to happen. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a feel of how the game plays. I know it's not a full rules teach. I kind of went through it in somewhat of a teach and somewhat of an example, but hopefully you can get a somewhat of a reflection. Okay, that's about what it would feel like. It's kind of a race. You got this worker placement element, trying to upgrade. It's an engine building type of a feel. You got this ever-growing threat of more demons coming on the board. You got these epic deeds that are going to disappear if you can't accomplish them soon enough. And you're trying to do all this while everybody else is trying to do the same things. And so you're racing to the epic deeds, you're racing to defeat the demons, you're racing to try to get to the angels so that you can get those wings so that you can defeat the demons. And so depending on how many players, there's going to be a race for all of those things, and it can be, pretty intense. I've had a couple times we've been playing where, one person moves into a spot and then has a way that they can move into it as a secondary action, and right away on their next action be able to do that chronicle, and no one saw it coming because they didn't think about the fact that you're going to kind of be able to do 2 things. So it's got a little bit of that scythe feel where you can upgrade your actions, and you also have that kind of lower secondary action that you can choose. So there's a lot of interesting planning, and like I said, engine building. I didn't even show how you can take some of these upgrades, and these upgrades are going to give you different advantages. So for instance, this one gives me just 2 glory points as soon as I activate it, and I can put it on a choice of any hero I want. And then anytime I would choose that hero on my board, I would get 2 glory points just for using that hero. And then some of the ones that come with your characters. So for instance, the one that's my scout, that one, the Orchida, in my case, it tells me that I have the ability then to get to the secret passage that I mentioned on the board, where you to get onto that island, you have to upgrade your scout, and then it also gives you an extra movement for your scout. And so there's some that, like I said, are going to help your specific heroes, very unique to their abilities, based on your own cards, and then there's some that are going to be based more generically that could help your ship or could help your character. And so lots of things to think about. I really like the engine building aspect of it, and I tend to like race games and trying to outmaneuver the other players to see if I can get certain things accomplished before they can, and see if I can time things out to do that in a more efficient way than the opponents. But there is a sequence. You have to make sure you get into the spot before you do a chronicle action, which was always a little bit tricky for us to remember when we were first learning the game. We wanted to just move into the spot and do the action right away. But you have to move into the spot, and then on your next turn, do the chronicle action. So that took a little while to get used to. The other thing is that when you're doing the motion, you have to, as you go, if you can move 2 spots, 3 spots, you have to do each spot you move into individually as you go. And so sometimes you might, without noticing it, move yourself to where you have no more power, and sometimes, like, some of these requirements might say you have to have a certain amount of power, and so, or you have to take on a certain number of demons, but you can't go past your max. And so if you don't have enough power, like this one here, the Belvedon's Throne epic deed, requires you to take on 25 demons. And so if you don't have enough, if you haven't been planning for that, you can't even go into that spot, and you have to have $50 to go into that spot as well. So you have to kind of think through what you're doing, how you're going to get the money, how you're going to get the motion, how you're going to get the power and protection, all of that kind of working together. I really like the puzzle of it. As I said, there was a couple production issues that were a little fiddly. The little sawtooth thing across the top, it wasn't terrible, but it did often get jostled, and almost everyone at some point during the game had to think, I'm not sure exactly where this is. It got bumped. I think it's here. So hopefully in future productions of the game, they find a way to do that a little bit better. I think on the retail version that doesn't even have the sawtooth thing, so it's just two smooth edges, which would be even harder, I think, to make sure that you're keeping that aligned. So that was a little bit tricky to keep track of. And then the money, moving those little discs around. Sometimes if you bump your card, then they slide, and you got to remember, well, how much money did I have? It's a lot of money to deal with because you're looking at 10s and 20s and 50s and hundreds. And so, but I think if you had poker chips or something like that, you could just use that instead of those little rings and kind of overcome that one. But those are two of the kind of production issues that were a little bit tricky. But I really like the art. The theme is interesting, although once you start playing, it really just feels more like a racing, engine building, Euro style game. And you're not really battling each other, you're just racing each other. You're battling these demons. And sometimes there was even almost like a semi-cooperative feel to it where, hey, if someone doesn't beat that demon, then that epic deed's going to be gone for good. And so, yeah, do we want to do that? And if someone takes this chronicle, a demon's going to spawn here, and then that epic deed's going to be taken away. Do we want to do that? So sometimes there's a little bit of negotiation and try to talk through some things, but mostly you're out for yourself. You are trying to do it as efficiently as possible and achieve the points as quickly as you can. And it does have that nice mechanism of catch up where when an event happens, then the person with the least amount of glory is always going to get some kind of an advantage, which keeps kind of pulling them up from the rear. And I also like just playing with all the different characters, but where this one today you could see it's all about rolling the dice. And I could not roll the dice with very good consistency for positive things to happen. So that's not really one of my favorites because there is quite a bit of luck in that, but some people love that gamble feeling and they just want to roll the dice and hope they can get great results. I liked some of the other ones, other characters a little bit better, but especially with the Kickstarter Deluxe version, there were 7 to choose from, and you can only play with up to 5 people. So yeah, you can always pick one I think you're interested in and enjoy. So lots of good things about this game. I would definitely recommend it if you like that engine building race type of a game. And it actually, the turns are pretty snappy. So even, I haven't played with 5 players, but even with 4 players, it didn't feel like it dragged much. You can't necessarily think too far in advance because things do change where someone might kind of sneak in and take an epic deed you didn't see that coming, or they might jump in and defeat a demon you didn't see coming, or a few people might do chronicle actions in a row and move that track faster than you expected. So there's just a lot of different things that you can't necessarily account for in that 3-4 player game, but before it comes back around to your turn. But you can always kind of have a tentative plan, and there aren't that many choices. Once you have an angel or an advantage card from accomplishing an epic deed, you might have a 6th or even a 7th place to put your worker besides the 5 heroes you start with in the chronicle action. But really, I don't think it ever comes down to too much analysis paralysis potential. I think it's a pretty snappy game, and we've enjoyed it quite a bit. So I'd like to thank Great Box Games for sending this review copy for me to play. I've enjoyed playing it at 1, 2, 3, and 4 players. It's been a lot of fun to learn all the different asymmetric characters and how they play out. And everyone that I've played with has really enjoyed it. And I think something that's kind of unique about the game that I didn't mention yet, there are little things like, yeah, we've done worker placement like this, and I've had this, player board that you're manipulating and building the engine, and I've seen inside, that sort of layered action choice. But the combination of how the things fit together feels pretty unique. I couldn't really think of another game that I just think, oh, this reminds me of that game. This element kind of reminds me of Side, and that element kind of reminds me of another game or like that. But it feels pretty unique. And so if you like that kind of a feel to the game of the engine building and the race, I would encourage you to get it to the table and give it a try. So hopefully that helped you decide if this is one you want to pursue, whether you want to buy it or find it at a game store and play it and see what you think about it yourself. If you've played EOS Island of Angels, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have questions about it, because I didn't really tell every rule. There's quite a few little details that you might have questions about, so let me know if you have those down in the comments below. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and if you wouldn't mind giving it a thumbs up down below, I really appreciate that. It really helps if you would choose to subscribe to the channel as well. As always, thanks for watching. This is Billy Indiana, signing off.